Test, 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 test. Hey everybody. Test, test, test. I haven't fired up OBS on the Mac in a while, so please do let me know if it still works. It'll be a little fuzzier and noisier than usual, but hopefully the sound will still be okay. We're still using the Yeti, as you can see. We've got a very dark frame tonight, it looks like. Very dark behind me. Got the dark red shirt. The poor eyesight camera on this Mac is I think not quite as sensitive as the phone is, but that's okay. Let's see, Exploring with ASMR dropped a comment earlier before we went live. Welsh Marvel also sending regards. He won't be able to be here tonight. Lucy Smart, Kayubi, of course, our Dizzle, all in the chat. Thank you very much for being here. Please make yourself comfortable. Check, 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 check. Chris621 is in the chat. Hello, Chris. Welcome. We're just making sure OBS still works. I haven't had it on in many months. Updated it to the new version, and our Dizzle, thank you for the sound check. I appreciate it. I guess as long as the Yeti is still working good and can pick up all of our ramblings and tinkerings, then that's exactly where we want it, right? I started streaming a lot on the phone because, well, when I streamed, I was really fond of doing it with the phone because I was very taken with the idea of being able to stream with no computers running on the desk. So I was able to keep the noise floor very quiet. And I still like that. I still like that aspect of it, of course, but if the apps keep crashing, maybe the old Mac and OBS will be the way to go for a while, and that's perfectly fine too. It'll just be a little noisier. You probably hear a little bit more stuff going on in the background, but we'll deal with that. Let's try to keep the sounds nice and present in the Yeti, and we'll go from there. I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Please do make yourself comfortable. Settle in. Please talk amongst yourselves. If you're new here, please keep in mind that one of the favorite things here is to make sure that everybody is kind of, chatting amongst themselves, getting to know each other, chiming in on conversations and stuff. That's one of my favorite things. Viscaria ASMR and Breadfish, please everybody please check out Viscaria's channel. She is very cool. If you dig her content, I encourage you to give her a sub if you haven't yet. Breadfish. Good night, everyone. Good night indeed. Chris621 asks, 1 second. So even though running OBS on the Mac is a little fuzzier and noisier than the phone, I do like having the push to mute buttons on the keyboard. It's much quieter than the mute button that comes on the Yeti, and I just used it, so that's awesome. So it does have some good things. Good things. Good things. But Chris21 asks, what amp do I use for the bass? I've been running the same rig for quite a while now. It's a Gensbenz rig, which should tell you something about the age if you know anything about equipment companies, because I think Gens got bought out by some bigger company, and then Jeff Gensler went on to start yet another company called Gensler Amplification, I think. Gensler. And so I use the Shuttle 6.0 head with two of their Neox 112 cabinets. So each cabinet has the single 12-inch speaker, but it's the neodymium magnet material, or however you say that. So they're lighter weight cabinets. They're about 32 pounds each. And I use that stack at gigs. So it's two 12-inch cabinets stacked vertically, and then the Shuttle 6.0 on top. That's a 600 watt amp into 4 ohms. This is bass gear tech ASMR we're talking about right now. The Shuttle 6.0 amplifier. Mr. Rager 212, thank you for that kind comment. I appreciate that. Matt Dodd is in the stream. I don't think I recognize your name, Matt. Thanks you for being here. And Matt is a bass player as well. What kind of music do I play? I'm in an original band right now, and so we write our own stuff, and it's very much like, I guess, classic rock inspired stuff. Jared almost fell asleep and missed the stream. Well, that would be sad for all of us, Jared, if that happened, but thankfully you're here now, so that's awesome. Decaf Math is in the chat as well. Yes, please greet each other and chat it up. You know how it works here. Please, you're all involved in this thing. It's it's interesting, you know. It's almost like every different stream you go to has its own personality, its own flavor. I'm sorry, excuse me. I should use that button. In fact, if I'll tell you something I've been doing, and we've got objects here. I just haven't gotten around to them yet, but I'm chatting with you all, so I hope you don't mind. Something I've taken to doing lately, and it's an interesting way to find new creators and new creators who stream. So if you're in YouTube sometime, just search on ASMR. Just put ASMR up in the search block and do that search. And of course that will give you a huge list of ridiculous things. But then go over to your filter and open your filter menu up and filter on the subcategory live. And then that will give you a list of live streams that are happening right at that moment that have ASMR as a keyword. And of course, you'll see, a couple of the popular 24/7 streams up at the top. Then way down at the bottom, you'll see a whole bunch of, interesting things about nature sounds that are on loops, 24/7 stuff. And if you go way, way farther down, you'll see kids streaming from their phones with ASMR in the title, which I can't quite get on board with. But right there in the middle someplace, if there's any small to medium-sized creators that are streaming right then, they'll show up right there in that list. And it's fun to, invariably they are people that I've not heard of before, and it's fun to click into their live streams and see what they're all about. So I would encourage you guys to try that as well. It's a very interesting little trick to catch some new creators. Sleep Stories ASMR is here. I just watched. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm remiss. If any of y'all don't know Exploring with ASMR, Sleep Stories ASMR, Decaf Math ASMR, please make a point of checking their channels out. Sub if you like their content. Don't sub if you like it. That's what I always say. As a creator, as a small creator myself, I will tell you that I'd rather have engaged subscribers than just subscribers. So, and maybe you won't hear that from other creators, but don't sub just to get somebody's numbers up. Sub if you like it, and if it's the kind of content you can engage with, right? That's what I'll certainly not speak for any of the creators in the chat, but for me, frankly, I don't want your sub if you don't like my stuff. And that's cool. It's no hard feelings for anybody. But if you like my stuff and if you like their stuff, click the button. But yeah, check out everybody, and I'll try to remind everybody if we get some more creators in the chat. Lucy Smart says, "What kind of mic is that? This one right here. You've probably seen this before. This is the Yeti. It's made by the Blue Microphone Company. So most people just call it the Blue Yeti. It is not what anyone should call a professional microphone. It is not it's not really a ruggedized professional audio microphone. It is a USB microphone. It is essentially what I would call like a consumer electronics grade device. No disrespect to Blue, but that's what it is. But you see it a lot on ASMR channels, and I think I've read that, there are some traits. Sorry guys. Wow. I think this is going to be one of those nights. I'm going to be on tangents tonight, and I haven't even gotten to our fun trigger items yet, but I think there's something about the particular frequency response, the sensitivities of the Yeti. I don't think it's a very linear mic. I think it has some sibilance issues, but it's really found a home has an inexpensive, easy to use microphone that happens to be well suited to a lot of people's ears to ASMR, which is interesting. I found this one at a pawn shop for $30, and and it's easier to set up for streams than my 2 mic and mixing board setup that I used to use. In fact, I haven't gotten that out recently because the Yeti, whether it's not that it's better for or worse, it's a different sound, but it's so much easier to set up in so many of my videos, just connecting it to the phone, to the phone, to the phone, to the phone. That's funny. Decaf Math just asked, have you ever tried connecting the Yeti straight? Yes, that is how I shoot my videos. When I'm using the Yeti, I go straight to the phone with this. I don't know how the fuzzier eyesight camera will pick this up. Probably not well, but this is Apple's USB 3 to Lightning port adapter. It's got Lightning port on the one end, and then on this end, it's got the standard full-size USB here. God, I'm good at this. Use a pointer. So it's got the regular full-size USB here, and which is the reason why you want to use this adapter if you're running Apple products, is this second Lightning port here. And you care about this because it lets you plug in a separate power supply that will power both the phone that's plugged in here and whatever USB device you've got plugged in here. And that is key because USB microphones are powered devices. So when you plug a USB device into your phone, then your phone's battery is not only trying to power itself, but it's also trying to power the USB device. That's not a good formula for long streams because your phone dies fast. So this little adapter is key. Plug this into the phone, plug the Yeti in here, plug a power adapter in here, and you can stream all night. And since that's the way I shoot most of my regular videos, and like my last video was an hour and a half long, you can shoot an hour and a half video, and when you're done, your phone is charged. So how about that? But yeah, that's how I do it when I'm using the Yeti. If I'm using my bigger, multiple piece setup, then I'm recording to a Zoom H2, and then I'm, marrying up the audio and the video in post. But you don't have to do that when you've got the Yeti plugged right into your phone. No, it saves you a step in post-production because you don't have to sync the things up. Chris621, that's how I found your channel. I was just looking for some saxophone ASMR. That's very specific, Chris. Stumbled upon your video. Cool. Well, a lot of different roads lead to us, I suppose. Yay for tangents, getting that deal. Yes, ma'am. Kelly, hello Kelly, is in the chat. Finally able to catch a stream. We are delighted to have you here, Kelly. I hope everybody say hello to Kelly, and please make yourself comfortable and chat it up with all of our friends there. Sleep stories. I probably need an actual mic eventually. You know, maybe not sleep stories. I was watching your newest video today, and your overdub sound quality is on point. So if you're recording it and it sounds like that, and you don't think you have an actual mic now, I'd say you're doing a good job of using what you have, because it sounds great to me. Okay. My water was too far away. Let's at least talk about what we have to play with tonight. Agreed. Decaf Math Sleep Stories has got the phone ASMR game down. You recorded that voiceover with the phone mic. See, you've got it happening. Miguel is in the chat. Everybody say hello to Miguel, please. Lucy, frankly, I don't do a super good job of posting ahead of time on the streams, although tonight I did give about an hour and a half notice. I've been in the habit the last month or 6 weeks or so to be streaming on Tuesday nights. So, and we've got a nice little group that comes here on Tuesday nights. So, okay, let me talk about our toys tonight, guys, and then you can tell me what you want to hear more of. So there was a bag with 100 of these paper lunch bags on the kitchen island, kitchen island this evening. So I had to grab one for the stream. I think, I'm so fond of crinkling paper. I think nearly every one of my streams either has a tea bag wrapper or something that crinkles kind of like a tea bag wrapper. And I think this is our candidate for this evening. Is that coming through all right? The background noise from the computer isn't too loud, is it? And as we know, we do the subtle sounds here on this chat. And so, especially with our paper sounds, we like to see how subtle a sound we can make. And paper is great for just barely, just barely working the paper. Yes, Chris, I fully expect there's going to be some background noise, more than just the when I use my phone, because I've got my computer, the Mac is running right behind the mic, so we won't have as low a noise floor as we usually do, but not much we can do about that if we're going to use OBS. All right, so we've got the paper sack or bag, depending on what part of the country you're from. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the chat whether you call this a sack or a bag, please. All right. Anybody recognize these? These are our questions from the 25 question challenge. Oh, everybody's voting for bag. No, nobody calls that a sack. Hey, Francis, welcome. Wow. Everybody's calling it a bag. Hey, Francis, do you call this paper item a sack or a bag? Sack is French. Very good. Okay. But we've got our little questions here. And I was curious how this would sound. This might be a little subtle, I'm not sure. Actually, you guys will have to tell me. I guess I didn't think about it. But since we do have a little noisier stream, some of these more subtle sounds might not work as well. So if anything's getting drowned out in the computer noise, you let me know and I'll move on to something else. But we've got our little pieces of construction paper here with our questions from the GB challenge. That was a lot of fun. Excuse me. So that is another item we have tonight. Breadfish brings up a point about headphones. It's actually a very interesting point. You know, sometimes I see people talking about, the headphones, ASMR with headphones, on Reddit and things like that. And some people will just, are adamant that, the only way to consume ASMR is with headphones. And I think that's a very interesting argument, because, for speaking for me, I won't speak for anybody else, but, my earliest ASMR experiences were experiences in real life from real triggers and things like that. And there's no headphones involved there. ASMR, I think, is one of the most subjective experiences that it's possible to have. And I think if you're hearing, a sound that triggers you, I think it can happen with headphones. It can happen without. If it's triggering, right? Sometimes if I have ASMR going on in the background while I'm, doing something else, and I don't want to be, tied to a certain distance, I'll listen without headphones, and if it's the right stuff, it's the right stuff. But yeah, I think it's a wildly subjective thing, and certainly I use headphones a lot of the time. But when I was a kid sitting cross-legged in front of public TV when I was growing up watching Bob Ross, Bob Ross is Bob Ross, am I right? It's he can beat the devil out of it whether you've got headphones on or not. All right, so here's an interesting item that some of you might recognize. This is the This is the disc washer system. If you had vinyl back in the day, you might have had one of these. It's got the little filaments, the little hairs on the one side, and you clean dust off of your vinyl with one of these. And the handle to the disc washer is hollow, as you can see, because a bottle of cleaning fluid gets held in there. But when it's empty, it makes a nice little resonance chamber that we can excite in several ways. We can use the brush handle, of course. We can use the wooden spool. It's almost like this thing is directional in a way. I've got this opening here and I can point it right at one of the mic capsules. Or we can take these popsicle sticks, popsicle sticks, and we can put the sticks in the handle. So we've got that. Hey Colt, welcome to the stream tonight. How you doing? It's like the wood and this chamber kind of amplifies the sound that the popsicle sticks would be making. And gives it kind of a deeper resonance. I'm doing okay, Colt. I'm not 100%, but I'm better now that I'm hanging out with you guys, so I appreciate that. No, there's nothing written on these. Just blank, straight up OG popsicle sticks. Jared likes the light tapping on the disc washer, so let's keep that in mind. You guys, I'm going to be asking you what you want to hear first, so I hope you're taking mental notes as we go. We've got a regular old prescription bottle, prescription bottle. ASMR tingles and goosebumps at the same time is like the double whammy, the 1-2 punch, am I right? Understood, Lucy. Perfectly fine. So we've got the prescription bottle. Prescription. And lastly, I guess, well, if we don't count I do have this brush that I wanted to use with the disc washer, but it has some stiff bristles on it, so we might be able to do it a little of that. And then lastly, I'm wearing this watch. Have a good night, Viscaria. And if I take off the watch, hello there, Elias. Welcome to the stream. So we've got the metal band sounds of this watch that we can play with as well. Start with brushing the mic. Last time I needed practice. You're right about that. And I was going to do more of that if the app didn't crash. So mic brushing is your favorite trigger. You'll have to tell me if I'm doing it okay. I love how there are other small artists here. Yeah, it's fun, you know. I like both. I love anybody coming in here that that appreciates the content. But I also love seeing ASM artists, particularly small ones, because I think there's I don't know, just a bond when you're at a similar place on this journey, this creative journey, a YouTube journey, ASMR content journey. And I don't know, I think there's just a bond when you've got that shared experience. There's something about just kind of doing your own thing to a small audience, and the rewards that come from that, the challenges that come from that. It's fun to have other small artists in a little community that kind of all understand that, you know. Indeed, water cooler. All right, Jared put the first request in, so we'll do a little bit of. Let's see how I can. Did a little bit of this last week with a slightly different brush, but we'll see how this one goes. Let me know if longer strokes are better. All the way down like that, or shorter strokes like that. So how has everyone else's Tuesday been going anyway? So Sleep Stories, was that a Renaissance fair that you were at when you made that video? Matt Dodd just got back in the country. Where did you come from, Matt? Tell us about that. don't hesitate to chat it up, guys. We got a friendly group here on Tuesday nights. Panama City. Very cool. Vacation with wife and daughter. Well, that sounds just about perfect. I assume you had good weather down there? Maryland Renaissance Festival. Jousting. Jousting is our state sport. Anybody ever see the one season of that show called Full Metal Jousting? Full Metal Jousting. It's where some guys are doing modern jousting with modern jousting armor and modern why can't I think of the what's the word for the wow, why can't I think of that? The thing you hold when you're jousting. Oh my gosh, what? I've completely blanked on that. Somebody help me out. The thing you joust with. Hey, Rowan. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Lances, oh my gosh. Whew. Thank you. Yes, it's lance. Ugh. Yeah, Full Metal Jousting. I think it was a History Channel show that ran for one season. I think you can see it on their Roku channel or something like that. But I thought that was a cool show. I like them taking a medieval kind of a concept and, say, okay, here's how you would do this now. Cold ones, stipple, yeah. I'm not you probably might know this by now, but I'm not a big trigger word or mouth sounds guy. I try it in very, very, very small amounts here on the stream, but I am definitely not comfortable with it for some reason. But that's okay, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. It's not our job to be good at every single thing. I think rather one of the keys in life is to be really objective about what we are good at and perhaps what we're not so good at, and then crafting our lives and our activities in a way that accentuates our strengths and minimizes our weaknesses, right? And I think that's a truism for many things. think it's true for bands, you know. If you're writing music, a lot of times it's hard for amateur musicians to be very objective about what they're good at and what they're perhaps a little bit weaker at. A lot of times, amateur musicians don't have very objective or honest friends and family around them because nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings. So, you know, if they ask, hey, how was that? People will say, oh, it was great, man. You killed it. When perhaps that's not always true. And so you can go through rehearsals and even get on stage with a very lopsided view of what you're good at and what you're not. And then if you try to write songs not really having a good sense of that, you can get yourself very quickly into territory that you really, really need to stay away from, and you just don't know any better. So that kind of objectivity with personal creative pursuits is not a given. It's not intuitive. It's very difficult to step outside of yourself and look at your own skill set through detached third-party eyes and ears. And I would throw ASMR right in that same category, you know. And I'm sure that's where a lot of my insecurity about things like this mic brushing and things like saying stipple over and over and over, because I just, you know, I don't have a strong sense that, you know, that I do that any well. Perhaps I err too much to the other side instead of the amateur musician who thinks they're good at everything because they've never been told that they suck. My first reaction is to probably think that I suck at everything, and then slowly try to, you know, push out of my comfort zone and maybe, you know, find a few things that you know, maybe I do okay. I don't know. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate that. Appreciate the kudos. Writers have the same issue. Oh, I'm sure, Kayubi, I'm sure they do. Everybody likes to think they're better than they are, then they pull the "it's art" card. Well, they're not wrong. It may be art, but that doesn't mean anybody is going to look at it or read it or buy it. Am I right? But again, sometimes a small audience, a small, interested audience can be a very gratifying, satisfying thing. I like the new audio meters on the version 22 of OBS for the Mac. They're in stereo. It's very nice. Shut up, gear nerd. Short stories. I wish I could read more. I shouldn't phrase it like that. Of course, I can read more. I just don't make the time for it that I should. Halloween. I doubt it, Ardizzle. Probably be, we still have trick-or-treat age kids in the neighborhood, so I'm sure we'll be hanging out here giving out candy and such. My kids still try to get out and do that sort of thing, even though I think they're getting a little old for it. I know back in my day, kind of the teenage year was the cutoff, meaning as soon as you turned 13, kind of didn't do much trick-or-treating anymore. At least I didn't. But my kids do not observe that threshold. Got to catch all the Halloween movies on TV. Well, we got a brand new Halloween movie with Jamie Lee Curtis coming out this season. With that essentially wipes out all of the other movies that came after the original, and it's a sequel to the original, so we got that to look forward to. Never too old for Halloween. Hey, decaf math. I think I happened upon a much better even shaman list for standard that I've got to try out next time we play. I like it much better in the early game. Fall crafting. Yeah, I live in a part of the country where, we have craft shows sometimes, the little craft fairs and things. Bring it on. Oh, I'm sure you'll still crush me, because because you'll do that. I just might last one or two turns longer before I'm crushed under the wheels of your tempo mage onslaught. I'm not sure, Kyubi. Someone look that up for him, please. Do we know what day Halloween is yet? So decaf math at Friday night, you said, is your late game night? Kyubi will be working sad face. I get the feeling he's not very sad about it. Our Dizzle, Decaf Math and I were playing Hearthstone the other night, and I think then she went on to... you were playing something else with other people after we stopped, though, right? Can't remember what you said. One of the multiplayer team games or something like that. Oh, that's right. Hey, Matt, thanks for being here, okay? Hope to see you again, maybe next week. You're welcome anytime. Do you play the Hearthstone, Ardizzle? Yeah, I started back in 2014. I was playing with the kids, my kids. They kind of fell away after a while, but we started playing back then, and it's kind of a surrogate for, well, it's funny, Kyubi just mentioned Magic and Pokemon. I learned both of those games to play with my kids as well. But, with Hearthstone, it was nice to have an electronic surrogate for tabletop card games that I could play, when nobody else in the family wanted to play a game or whatever it was, And it's just kind of stuck with it over the years. I'm not any good at it, as Decaf Math will tell you, but it's a nice diversion. Played a lot of Warcraft, though. I've never tried my hand at that. Funny thing about Hearthstone is that, that was all of the artwork for the original cards, and even some of the names and things were from a card game that Blizzard tried to get off the ground, in the post-Magic days when everybody was trying to do a card game. And they developed a World of Warcraft themed trading card game to play, at a table. And it didn't take off, but then when they turned their attention to doing an online version, they recycled all that artwork that they had already invested in and created Hearthstone. And I would argue that Hearthstone's probably doing pretty well for them. If you like that sort of thing. Hearthstone collaboration. I know Indy ASMR and I have been trying to get a time together to play Hearthstone on his stream. Quietly trash talking each other. Oh, that is funny. We were Skyping mild trash talk back and forth the other night when we were playing, so that would be funny to do it in an ASMR manner. Can't really think of anything witty to say, but my mind is playing out all sorts of scenarios about how that might go. I wonder how an ASM artist, Hearthstone tournament might go. What if we can get like 8 ASM artists on the US server and, run an actual double elimination or something like that? They have lots of, websites that you can use to run a tournament on, where you can handle all of your administration about the matching the competitors up and things like this, and putting in your results and stuff. Oh, that was almost a good move. It was so close to being a good idea. That move that you just made. Hey, Cold Hunter's in the chat. Hello. Hey, Cold Hunter, what's going on? Oh, man. We have no idea what we're doing. Are you sure that's the card you want to play? You had an entire hand of options, and that's the one you went with. There is probably a reality somewhere where that was a good idea. But sadly, it's not here. I was playing a bunch of shaman cards that, decaf math had never seen before, but it was not enough. Because apparently nobody plays shaman, so. it was not enough. You're not getting roasted, Koyubi. You're the idea guy. That would have been a good deck in somebody else's hands. Just because you get behind the wheel of a Ferrari doesn't mean you're not going to run it into a wall. ASMR raffles. These are the Cold Hunter. These are all of the GB questions from the 25 question challenge I uploaded a few days ago. You did a video of you going through your hockey and D&D cards. What is your channel? Is your channel name the same as your screen name here? I'd watch that. Card sorting videos are legit. So, speaking of card sorting videos, and I brought this up in my ASMR tag video because it answered one of GB's questions, but have any of you guys seen my old 100 subs video where I'm sorting through the KISS cards? Because one of the questions was about, a video that we've done that we didn't think we got the love that it deserved. Oh no. And slight sounds. You're at a show, like a concert? Maybe you can't even hear what I'm saying right now because you're in the middle of a concert. That's cool. Now I want to know what concert she's at. Okay, so now there's two people who haven't seen it. And that's what I was talking about, when you're a super slow growing channel like this one, it's a smaller show, so but a concert, right? A band is playing, slight sounds. Point is, when you're a very slow growing channel, you end up doing a lot of content at a time when you don't have very many subs. And so, the stuff that gets the most views are the most recent things. So if you get a year or 2 years after that, a lot of that older stuff just kind of stays put. And so, if you had a case of beginner's luck and did a halfway decent video early on, it just kind of sits there and nobody ever sees it. And so I used that as the answer to one of the questions. The 100 subs video, I sort through a stack of KISS cards and kind of ramble on the significance to me at the time of the subs and, kind of my motivations for doing the channel in the first place. And I was really happy with the way the ramble went. But you talk about card sorting, that's a card sorting video. Actually, if you like card sorting videos and you watch that 100 subs video, see if you can tell how I'm sorting the cards. Because I'm sorting them a very specific way. And if you can figure it out, put it in the comments. Stonefield, all-girl rock band from Australia. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I love getting a comment on a super old video too. Usually if somebody comments on a very old video, it's because, you know, they actually really have something interesting to say, because they're really, you know, digging back and it's very gratifying when somebody hits on one of those old videos. Everyone here is a content creator. That happened on Let's Find Out's stream last night. He had a ton of creators in the channel, in the chat. So we're the creators and you're the consumer, huh, Cold Hunter? That's fine. We wouldn't have an audience if it weren't for people like you, so that's all good. Hey there, Austin. Thanks very much for being here. You know, we mentioned fall crafts. Anybody ever have a rock tumbler or a rock polishing set? You thought the stream crashed? Did it freeze or something? I think it's still looking good from my side. OBS is still up. I got no dropped frames. I got a pretty low frames per second though. I'm sorry about that. That's just the old Mac. But hopefully the sound is where we need it to be. I guess that's the most important thing. Yeah, has anybody ever have a rock polishing kit or rock tumbler kit back in the day? I'm sure they still make them because, you know, polished stone jewelry is a thing. I still have the barrel, you know, the part that would tumble with the rocks in it. I still have one of those filled with rocks from when I tumbled, you know, a set of rocks when I was a kid. And I was thinking about bringing those out for a sorting video sometime. Sometime soon. We could sort by color or shape. I was looking to kind of revisit the concept of allowing ourselves the luxury of just focusing on one simple thing for a little while. I wanted to use the stones as an example. Hey, Marshall. Welcome to the stream. I'm sorry I didn't catch your comment from a few minutes ago. So what happened to your internet, Cold Hunter? A week sounds like kind of long time to be without. Slow focus is one of the most beautiful things. Is that an actual term, sleep stories? Slow focus. New comic day tomorrow. Do new comics come out on Wednesdays, Kayubi? So you're in a rural area. So the service is not super stable or super reliable. Rocks and wood sounds. Have you ever played Mancala? I have. As a matter of fact, I was just watching an older Mancala video from ASM Marvelous the other day, because Royal Fool, one of my viewers, made a comment on the 25 question video that ASM Marvelous did the same kind of thing a few years ago with pulling questions out of a little box. And that got me looking at some of her stuff. Three hours in waiting time of phone calls to customer support. That is no fun. Does not sound like that they were doing much supporting of the actual customer, does it? If you're in a rural area, I wonder if there was a telephone pole fell down. I wonder if there was an actual infrastructure problem, like cable or something like that. The tech didn't come because it was a holiday. Chicho, that is one chill dude. I like his channel. Slow focus should be a term. I use it in games of chess, studying for exams in college, and the occasional nature walk to clear the head. Slow focus. Slow focus. I really like that term. Slow focus. Well, I'm glad you're reconnected now, Cold Hunter, so that you can be here. Slow focus. Slow focus. Slow focus. I like the idea of a Mancala video, but I would have to be very careful because I can see how the biggest sound problem I can tell already with a video like that is the whole just managing the volume of the marbles, especially when you're putting them in the little areas and then you're putting them on top of other marbles. You have to be very careful not to, I could see people clicking away pretty quickly from a video like that if you're not really managing the how you handle those things and watching the impacts, which is it's funny how sensitive you get to those kinds of mechanics when you've tried to make when you've tried to make content like this, and your attention starts to turn to things like, are there any sound spikes in this thing that I'm preparing to do, and how can I make sure that I'm keeping a very even dynamic range throughout what I'm doing, so that my listener will only have to adjust volume once at the beginning of the video, and then everything else will fall nicely in that sweet spot. Not too loud, not too quiet. You start thinking about that, and it becomes an intentional thing, once you've made a few of these. It's an interesting perspective, interesting part of the journey. Snooping someone's channel right now. I wonder who it could be. Hopefully one of the fine content creators in the chat right now. Yeah, I mean the OBS stream, and that's why I'm streaming from the Mac tonight. The OBS is always going to be pretty stable because it's the Mac, and it's a program on the Mac. It's not a mobile app that's going to be derailed by something like disconnecting from the router temporarily or something like that. So the trade-off is that there's a computer running right behind the microphone, so I can't get it as quiet as I would like. But I'd much rather not have to worry about Jared. Yeah, don't remember a stream when it ended naturally. Well, I think tonight will be fine. Maybe the answer is I get a slightly better webcam for the Mac, and that might clean up the video a little bit. I don't know. It's still a fairly old, Mac. I can't tax it too much. So if we don't mind the fuzzy video and the slower frame rate, then you know what though? Maybe I should try putting OBS on my wife's laptop. It's a much newer machine. And if I put a nice webcam on that, maybe that would be a nice blend of frame rate and stability and image quality. I might have to look into that. Yeah, she's got the newest machine in the house with a small laptop. It's nothing fancy, but it's way, 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 way newer than anything else we have. Got it for, general bill paying stuff, and she's a big genealogy fan, and so she does that kind of work on it. She tutors, so she's does her tutoring stuff on it. Just general purpose. spend some time with family out of town. Does that mean you were out of town, Kyubi, or your family came in from out of town? Your grandfather does the genealogy. It is actually a fascinating hobby. I've not really done a lot with it directly, but watching my wife do it, and the I don't know, the research, it's a lot of all that looking back in time kind of stuff. I mean, that's right up my alley anyway, if I had the time for it. All the interesting mysteries that you can solve or try to solve with genealogy. Finding the names of those distant relatives and wondering what they might have been like. What are their personalities like? Are they someone you even would have gotten along with if you were alive at the same time and knew each other? Wow, actually born in Russia. So you've got some Russian lineage. That's super cool. See, little things like that, the surprises that you run into. Plus, my wife's laptop is a fairly quiet machine as well. Maybe there might be something to that. I'm going to have to look at that. We might be on to something. We might be on to something. Thank you, Decaf. I'll keep on the spools for a few more minutes. I wonder how hard it would be to find enough creators who play Hearthstone to do a little ASMR tournament. That could be cool. Of course, the very few times, like maybe one time, I was ever involved in a tournament, my least favorite thing about a tournament is that I have to play, 5 different deck styles. And I don't play a lot of the different heroes because I'm mainly a shaman guy. RuneScape. I've heard that name, but I don't know it. RuneScape. Cold Hunter has a new channel to sub to. I wonder who it is. Played it too much. but never got good at it. Boy, that's the story of my life. Of course, if I'm going to be talking about games that I played when I was a kid, we'd be talking about the arcade down at the mall and my hours on Tempest. Tempest was my jam. Getting nostalgic for those RuneScape days, Cold Hunter. Sounds like you logged a lot of hours. That's cool. I wonder if there's anyone in this chat who actually played stand-up arcade games in an actual, mall type business that was set up for that purpose. An actual arcade. Anybody walked through a packed arcade? Tons of your friends and a lot of people you didn't know. People standing in lines at arcade games. Cool, cool, cool. Wow, okay. More of you than I thought. That's outstanding. That means I don't feel, as quite as dinosaur-like as I would have otherwise. Why is that, Cold Hunter? Competitiveness is overrated. Yeah, I feel you. You guys still doing okay? I'm probably going to need to wrap this up before too long. I still need to get to bed and work in the morning. Although we're an hour and a half in, so that's good news for our stability. Let me move this window. There we go. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the arcade. My goodness. Now, Tempest. Tempest was my game. It's one of those vector graphic games, where all the shapes, everything on the screen are, drawn with the colored lines. We call those vector graphics. And I'm certainly not, claiming that I was any good at that either, but that was the game I spent the most time on. Tron Tank Game. Yeah, there was a vector game called Tac Scan back in the day, TAC, Scan. And then there were a couple of games where you kind of flew a ship through, a moving terrain with obstacles and aliens and things. One of them was called Zaxxon, and one was called Xevious. And I would play those as well. Oh, Galaga. Where I would see, where I often see Galaga the most is not in the full stand-up arcade games, but in the tabletop arcade games, and you find them in pizza restaurants and stuff like that, right? Where you can sit on one side or the other and you play a tabletop version. Thanks, Sleep Stories. That's so very kind of you to say. Yeah, I've had kind of a run of rotten luck and decisions and mistakes and stuff over the last couple of weeks, so I'm really looking to come out of the tunnel on this pretty soon. So I appreciate the sentiment. Yeah, those tabletop, and nowadays with the modern tabletop arcade games, they'll come, programmed with like a whole bunch of the classic games, and you can select them from a menu or whatever, and so it'll do a whole bunch of the different games, which means they have to have kind of generalized, controllers, so that, no matter what game you pick, you have the right controllers for it. But other than that, it's a pretty cool way to access a lot of those classic games. Thanks, Kyubi. Yep, one of those weeks. A couple and 3 weeks now. It means I'm looking forward to our trip to the Red River Gorge in the middle of October, because I am really going to need it. Trying to make decisions that will affect my entire life is hard. Well, yeah, I mean, if you frame it like that, it would be hard. A lot of it is perspective, and a lot of it is how you kind of approach things, I mean, if I was giving my son advice, which, is a hard thing to do sometimes, because, kids don't always want to hear the advice, but I think a key thing that can apply in several situations is, not to get paralyzed. Hey, thanks, Austin. I appreciate that. I hope I was able to help out a little bit tonight. When you talk about decisions, and you talk about, decisions that might affect your life or whatever, I think one of the pieces of advice that I try to get across to my kids is that it's okay. It's okay not to have the final answer. I think kids well, some adults, people in general, but I'm talking about kids now. Hey, R Dizzle, thanks for coming by. Hope to catch you next week. It's okay not to have the final perfect answer. Asking teenagers to kind of have their whole lives figured out is not really reasonable. I don't think. Not for everybody. Good night, R Dizzle. I appreciate you all saying good night to the people who are leaving. Please keep that up. It's okay not to know what you might want to do, or it's okay to have some uncertainty about, the next big chapter in your life. I think the key is to not get paralyzed because you don't know the answer, right? There's a million chapters that could come before that. Not a million, but so it's not about really having it all figured out. It's not about having the end game in sight. It's just about having the next step, whatever that is. And if you look at the journey as a series of steps, if you look at that story as a series of chapters, you don't have to know how it ends now. You don't have to know how that third act is going to play out. Just figure out the next few pages and then work towards that. The key, I think, is always be moving towards something. They could be big steps, they could be small steps. But, I really try to advise, my kids, at least don't stop. Don't let it get so big in your mind that it keeps you from moving forward on anything, right? Because I think that's a real hard rut, to get out of. And don't worry about 4 chapters from now. Worry about the next few pages. I think kids, I have a lot of sympathy for, because I think there's a lot of pressure, or there's a lot of expectation. Especially if you see some of your classmates and they seem to have it all figured out, and they seem to know exactly what they want to do, and they've already got applications in, and they just have it all. They just have it all figured out, right? And if you don't, I think it can be very easy to say, well, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have all these same answers that my classmate has? And it's not a cookie cutter scenario, right? Everybody's not going to walk the same path, and that's okay. We don't get to those first few answers at the same rate, at the same time always. But heck, as we know as small content creators, and I'm speaking, I know there's some creators in the chat, so that's why I'm saying this, but you know how easy it is for us to compare ourselves, right? Hey, CSRT4 ever, good to see you again. Thanks for being here. It's human nature to compare, right? I'm comparing myself to other channels. My kids are comparing themselves to their classmates. It's not helpful, it's not healthy, it's not constructive, but, it's so hard not to do it. But, nobody else's path is going to be right for us. We got to figure out our story. only the words that we write are the right words for our story. We're the only ones who can pick up that pen and write that. And we're not gonna write it at the same pace as everyone else, and that's okay. About 3 weeks ago, I applied entered the area. You're right, it's not the end of the world. There's nothing to say that you can't do what you just described, next year, right? And, for a lot of people, taking a little bit of time off is the right answer. Nothing wrong with that at all. I think when you're young and you haven't had as much experience, I think there's a tendency to think that the decisions are more important than they really are because you don't have the perspective that comes with life experience, right? So we think the decisions are more important than they are. We think that timing is more crucial than it really is. We think that chances, when they come and go, will never come again. And so much of that just is not true. Praying for peace and guidance in your situation. Yep, trust your gut. Yep, agreed with all that. Yep, you're right, Kyubi. Looking at our situation and trying to work with what we've got in a constructive way. Yeah, it's about looking at our situation, and the key that I would expand upon, right, is trying to, look at our situation in as objective and frankly unemotional way as we can. The trouble is when we're in a situation and we feel like we're on the back foot a little bit, and we don't feel like we're really far enough along or in control enough, that's when we get emotional, right? And our emotions color the way we see things, the way we perceive our reality, and it colors the decisions that we make. And gosh, that's hard, Definitely rely on the people around you who might have a more objective sense because they're not in the situation, Don't keep it to yourself. Lean on the people around you, or the people here in the chat. You can find sympathetic ears in a lot of places. I love everyone in these streams, man. Hey, I do too. How about that? We have that in common. I've got good folks in the streams. Sorry, I might have gone a little too far down that path, but just some it's very topical for me right now because I've got kids who are of an age where they're feeling a little bit pressed upon to make decisions, and it's important to keep that stuff in context. Thank you, Cold Hunter. It's just one guy's opinion. Papa Lamp or Uncle Gaslamp? Wow. I guess I'm going to have to leave that to you guys because I'm not qualified to make that decision. Yeah, good luck to you as well, Kyubi. I definitely sympathize. Try to change your living situation, loans and stuff. Oh yeah, yeah. Totally get it. I do hate those loans. I kind of hate, I guess I'm, a little old school that way, but I just hate paying. I just hate loans. I hate paying on stuff. I don't like trying to structure finances assuming that you'll always have this loan or that loan. That's why in those few cases when I'm have a car that I'm paying on, after I get the car paid off, I'll keep driving it and keep driving it and keep driving it, so that the time I spend driving it and I'm not making a payment outnumbers the months that I made payments on it. I think that's a good ratio. I like that. The thing about not going to college, I have money to pay for 3 years. I'd hate to not do anything else other than school for another 3 years. Yeah, we find our motivations in all sorts of different places. I think whatever motivates you to keep moving on something is a good thing. Just don't sit still. My friends did trade school. Should have followed that. Did you have a trade that you're interested in, Kyubi? Or that you think you would be good at, or something you would enjoy? Don't underestimate the importance of doing something you like doing if you possibly can. We're not always, lucky like that, but if you can work that out, that's gold. I think I'm gonna. Hey, Robert Smith, thanks for being here. I hate to tell you that I'm probably gonna give you a 5 or 6 minute warning. I think I'm gonna call it at the bottom of the hour. That's an even 2 hours. That's pretty good for tonight. I'm a project engineer, which does include, I guess you could say, a lot of, project manager type functions, yeah. Any tips on the behaviors or skills needed to be successful? Well, one of the key words in that question, of course, is successful. How you define that for yourself, right? Got to keep remembering to use my push to mute button. looking to move up in my company. I honestly do think a lot of it is networking. A lot of it is kind of being visible to the people who, are farther up in your management chain, who you think could have decision-making impacts on your position in the company. Sweet dreams, sleep stories. Thanks for being here. Yes, 4T2H0C. Never underestimate yourself. That is excellent advice as well. I'm sure I don't take that advice myself very well, but it is good advice anyway. You will find no shortage of people around you who will underestimate you. So you have to make sure that you're not doing it too. Sometimes you have to be your biggest cheerleader and your biggest advocate. But like I said, a lot of it has to do with, what is success to you, Like my path would probably not look very successful to someone else who has a lot more ambition towards management or towards, I don't know, being a hiring and firing kind of person. I've never had aspirations in those directions. I'm really more of I'm happiest as a kind of a behind the scenes kind of a guy. So success to me is, if I can provide for the people who depend on me and do some interesting things along the way, I'm so much better off, than I was growing up in terms of what we had, and the things we were able to do. So I'm about experiences. If I'm able to experience interesting things and interesting places, and we keep our basic needs met, I count that as success. Two-minute warning, guys. I really appreciate seeing everybody here in the chat tonight. And thank you for the inspiration to maybe research or try to get into my wife's laptop for next week, and maybe we'll turn that into a little streaming machine and go with OBS for a while. Maybe that's the answer to get us a little more stable. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful remainder of the week. Yeah, Marshall, this stream happens most Tuesday nights. Sometimes I don't feel like doing it, but over the last 6 weeks or so, it's been kind of a regular Tuesday night thing. So I hope you can make it back again. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to all the new people that we saw tonight in the chat, and of course all of our regulars. I hope all the new people can turn into regulars next week. It's always great when we see all the familiar names and chat it up with all the new people, and it makes for a really warm, inclusive time in the chat, and that's what we're looking for. So thanks a lot, everybody, and be strong and be happy this week, and help out the people around you, and try to be a blessing and a benefit to the people in your corner of the world, and make it a little brighter place, okay? And we will look forward to catching you all next week. Thanks again for being here, and good night.